someone who went into a changing room and tried on loads of clothes, and when they left, they'd left them all on the floor. They hadn't put them on the hangers. They were literally in a heap on the floor, and then the salesperson was having to like clean up after them. Hey everyone, I did a video a couple of weeks ago, and I'll link to it below, things that you should never ever do when you go into a luxury boutique. Well, there are also things you should always do if you go into a luxury boutique, and I've got 10 of those things here. And if you are thinking about going shopping, or if you're in the early stages of buying, like starting your designer journey, or maybe you're someone who's well into it but you just feel nervous about these boutiques, these are 10 things that are really going to help you. Before I start as well, some of you who watched the video a couple of weeks ago might remember that Farfetch, for the first time ever in my whole time on YouTube, they gave me a coupon code, but it's a 15% off coupon code. And I've got you tagging me on Instagram stories with screenshots of what you've bought. Like, you get to the checkout and you'll screenshot for me what you bought and the saving you've made. And I've got you telling me about brands that code works on, and they're brands that I always said in the past you can never get a discount on again. And the good thing is this time it also works on existing accounts as well as new ones. So I would say, and it runs out actually in a couple of weeks' time, so I would say if you're just curious to know what you can get money off, if there's anything you want, chuck a load of stuff in your shopping cart, add that code and see how it works out, because I've actually already used it on some clothes that are turning up today and the discount's really decent. Like 15% off some of these bags that are out there, 15% is really good. So I'll put details of that below, but let's get into it. The first thing that you should always do when you go into a luxury boutique, and this one kind of pains me to say it, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is one of you actually said to me, when I did that video of things you should never do, one of you said to me, should we dress up when we go into luxury boutiques? Well, I've actually spoken to someone about this who works for one of these big brands, and they have said that they've said by and large, if you go in dressed up and you have no history at all with the brand, particularly if you go in and you already have a designer bag and you're wearing it, you get profiled in these places. You know, the salespeople that work there, they have to pull in a certain amount per day, per week, per month, and if two people walk in and one person looks like they're going to spend and the other person doesn't, they're going to use their time on the person that they think's going to spend. Now the problem with that is, and any of you salespeople watching, you might agree, but sometimes you can get that wrong. Sometimes the people that look like they're going to spend are actually not the ones, and the person that's come in leggings and a sweater is the person that's going to spend big. But if you have no history, if you don't know anyone in the boutique that you're going into, dressing up, looking smart, if you have a designer bag, wearing it will help you, because we all do get profiled. I went into a luxury store about 3 weeks ago, one that I don't have a history in at all, and David actually said to me, he was like, the person serving looked at your bag. So I had like a Dior, Lady Dior that day, and David said he looked at your bag and then he approached you. And so there is definitely something in it. I think the time where you can afford to dress down is when you already know an SA and that person knows you and they know your history and they know your face, and then in that situation, then I think you can dress down. Now, do I agree with it? No, I don't. I don't like it's almost like a game you're having to play. I don't like having to get dressed up in order to be taken seriously, in order to go and spend my hard-earned money on something. Oh my god, this is a really big one. Before you buy anything, look for flaws in the product. So I've done this thing before where I go in and I look at something and I'm so excited about it, and I don't notice that the flap isn't straight, or that the zip isn't sewn on straight, or that the handle's wonky, or that actually there is a scuff in the leather. And then you get home and you notice it and you're like, oh, I wish I saw that. And then particularly if by the time you've noticed there's no more in stock. This is another really big thing that I think so many of us don't do and we overlook it. And it is making sure that your stuff actually fits the item that you are buying. Whether you are buying a wallet or whether you are buying a bag, when you are in the shop and you're looking at it, I do this now. Before I buy, I take everything out of my existing handbag and I put it in the new one that I'm thinking about buying and I make sure it fits. I have got, and I adore this bag, I don't regret it, but I've got the Mini Lady Dior. And my old phone, so my old phone was quite big, it didn't fit in, the flap didn't close over the top of it. Now if I'd tried all my stuff in that bag before I bought it, probably still will have bought it because I still love that, but I would have been aware of this isn't going to be a very practical bag for every day because your stuff doesn't fit. So make sure when you're in the shop, even if you want to see how many cards fit in the wallet, make sure that you're aware so that you don't end up buying it and you love the thing but you don't end up using it that much because it fits like nothing. Call and make an appointment. If you've never been into a particular boutique before, you're a bit nervous, you want to be taken seriously, one of the things that can really help is if you know the name of a person so that when you get to a boutique you're armed with that confidence of saying, oh, is this person available because I have an appointment. Honestly, it can make such a difference to your mindset as well. When I go into Dior in Harrods, a lot of you have seen before Enrique and Anne Lee who used to work there, and I know a lot of you, and Enrique told me this as well, a lot of you have said to me, I want to go in Dior but I'm a bit nervous. Because I know Enrique's name from your videos and because I invite you to contact him and so does he, it gives you the confidence to be able to walk in and say, is Enrique working? And it already makes you feel better. Because I don't give you the names of everyone that I go to, I would always say phone up ahead of time and make an appointment with someone. When you go into a boutique, it will really help you and the salesperson, but more so you, to know what it is roughly that it is that you're looking at or want to look at and how much you want to spend. I think sometimes it's difficult because sometimes you go into a boutique and you want to be tempted. You're not going in there for anything in particular, but you have a budget. You want to get yourself something nice, but you want them to get all of the items out and tempt you. And I find that a lot of the time when you go into boutiques, if you go in and you say, I've got this much to spend, tempt me, what have you got? Unless you really know the person that you're doing that with, I haven't found that a lot of places are that helpful. And I don't know why that is. It might come down to the point of like, if you go in there and you're like, I want to spend 10,000, then they're going to be more likely to do that than if you go in there and you're like, I want to spend £500. Potentially, that's what I'm guessing at. But if you know roughly what it is that you're looking for and roughly what it is that your budget is, you will be able to go in there and have a much better experience. Ask for the treatment. When I say the treatment, I mean, you know, if you want a coffee or a tea or a glass of champagne, if you've gone in there and you're buying something and you're having a good time and you just want to add to it, if they're not forthcoming with it, and I always say sometimes the sales associates aren't forthcoming with it only because they're busy helping you, but if that's what you want to do, if you kind of want to chill out, just be like, can I get a drink? And it will give you a better experience. One of you actually wrote to me, I hope you don't mind me saying, one of you wrote to me a couple of weeks back and you said that you went into Burberry in Westfield and you got the treatment. You went in to buy a scarf and you got the champagne and your fiance got the champagne and you had the best time and the sales associate was really helpful. And because of that, when you look at that scarf, you almost have warm feelings towards it. Like, not only did you get the scarf, but you can look at it and be like, that reminds me of a really good day, of a really good experience. Don't be shy to ask to look at the item you're looking at in different sizes, in different colors. Maybe you've seen the item that you thought you liked and you don't really like it that much, but you still want to buy something that day. Don't be afraid to ask that question of, I like that bag, but what other colors do you have it in? Sometimes, particularly when it's your first time in a boutique, you can also feel quite pressured to buy something. And if you've gone in there with a budget, with something particular in mind, even if you see it and you're like, actually, I don't really like it that much, now I see it in real life. Sometimes, depending on the kind of person you are, or also depending on the salesperson you're with, the situation, you can feel quite pressured to buy something. What you don't want to do is buy something that you actually didn't really like and you didn't really want. A common comment that I see a lot actually is that we don't feel worthy of going into these boutiques. And I can relate to that because I've told you all before, but when I first started my luxury journey, I went into, so the weird thing is, I went into Louis Vuitton looking at a bag and I did not feel worthy. I felt awkward. I didn't actually have the money at the time. There was a bag I wanted, but I wanted to see it in real life because I was saving for it and I was like, I want to know if I really want this or not. And particularly because I knew I didn't have the money, I went in and as soon as a salesperson tried to help me, I was like, oh no, because I'm not a sure thing here. I don't have the money. I'm just kind of window shopping. And sometimes it can feel like that. And one brand that I never had that with, and to this day I found them really good, is Dior. I remember the first time I ever went into Dior, I went in with that nervous feeling, but actually that feeling went immediately. There's something about that place, there's something about the customer service. They're very relaxed. That I've never, in Dior, I've never had heavy pressure to buy anything. And many a time if I looked at something and walked away from it, not felt awkward at all, particularly back in the early days. So I don't know about you, but for me it does depend on the store in question that I'm going into. But be confident. You have got as much right to go in there as someone else. And even like me back in the day, if you're window shopping, go in there and do that, because you know something, one day you will be that customer if you like the item. So feel confident, don't feel like you can't go in. Ask for contact details. Let's say you've bought something, or let's say you haven't. You're looking at buying something, but they don't have what it is that you want, or you're still saving. If you can, if possible, and it's easier to do actually if you're buying something, but if you can, it's also easier to do if you intend on buying but they don't have in stock what you've got. Ask if you can get the person's contact details. Sometimes they're really forthcoming. Let's say, going back to point number one, if you've gone in there dressed up to the nines and you've got your designer bag, they're probably going to be more open to giving you their details if you do that. And it's wrong and it shouldn't be the case, but it happens. But if you can get their contact details, it benefits you for two reasons. First of all, in future, you know, when I was saying you can go into a boutique and ask to speak to a certain person, it lets you do that. That can be great for confidence. It also lets you build up a rapport with one particular salesperson. If you intend on shopping in that place, you can build up that rapport and like a purchase history with that person. But also if there's new products that come out, or if you want something, you've got that person and you can WhatsApp them. And then the final point, and it goes without saying, but be polite. I've seen it before in some boutiques where you get people that are quite rude, and I don't know why that is. They're rude in a way where the salesperson hasn't been rude, but they're just being like quite rude. And I think when you do that, you don't get the best service, because why would you? If you're kind of a bit standoffish or a bit like aggressive or pushy, you're not going to get the best service. And this is different to accepting bad customer service. I always say that I think you know if a salesperson's into you or not within the first 5 minutes of conversation. You know from their body language, you know if they can be bothered or not. And if they're not, I always walk away at that point. Like, why are you going to go back to a person who's really not interested? I've even seen it before and I was really surprised by it. Someone who went into a changing room and tried on loads of clothes, and when they left, they'd left them all on the floor. They hadn't put them on the hangers. They were literally in a heap on the floor, and then the salesperson was having to like clean up after them. And I was really shocked. I was like, why would you do that? That's really bad manners, in my opinion. I'm not wishing to offend anyone, but I personally wouldn't do that. And I just think if you kind of are more polite, you'll have a better experience. So they are the 10 things that you should always do whenever you go into these designer boutiques. If anything, I hope that these tips have given you confidence at whatever stage of your journey. If you are looking to buy into any of this stuff, or if you're already on your journey, I hope that I hope that there are things here you hadn't thought of before, but that go on to help you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.